What are your thoughts on the Roe v. Wade being overturned?
I'm against abortion.
The Supreme Court decision to overturn Roe versus Wade has left many women with new questions about their rights, their bodies, and their futures. It's also led some men to reconsider their own plans by getting a vasectomy.
There's been some talk with some people saying we need to protect life. The sperm that's the seed of life. So would you be in favor of all males who are not married getting vasectomies?
No.
And what about you?
To each their own.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And earlier this summer, Roe v. Wade was thrown down by the all-powerful conservative six. 6 people got to dictate to the American people where their freedoms begin and end. And 6 people set this nation back 50 years into the past.
Clarence Thomas said yesterday maybe we should take a look at the same-sex marriage ruling. Is that something you think we should look at as well?
What do I think of gay marriage? I don't believe in gay marriage.
You don't believe it? You don't think that 2 men or 2 women should be able to get married? Would you like to see them reverse the decision?
Yes.
And why is that?
Just how I was brought up, and that's how I believe.
And you mentioned it a couple times. To each their own, right?
It is to each their own, but everybody should have a respect in their own biblical sense.
So to each their own, but you don't want gay people getting married, and you don't want women choosing what to do with their body.
Right.
And last week, in a telling gesture that speaks to where this stands on the world stage, the EU voted 3-1 to condemn the United States Supreme Court ruling, and in response to ensure right to choose in their own fundamental rights charter.
The court's ruling made the front pages despite the UK's own current political turmoil, underscoring the significance of the decision. When the Supreme Court struck down Roe versus Wade, the whole world was watching and reacted.
Clearly, it has massive impacts on people's thinking around the world. It's a very important decision. I've got to tell you, I think it's a big step backwards.
World leaders, human rights organizations, and of course, even the majority of our own country's population all denounced the rulings. But thanks to the far right's long game of playing American politics like an algorithm, that subjective notions of half a dozen people get to set absolute rule over 330 million. This should be an outrage because it is. We've stood back way too long and ignored our civic duties as Americans. We've let Republicans take over state legislatures because we don't care enough to get out and vote in off years, special elections, or even for down ballot candidates at all. We've let gerrymandering and the abstract concept of land win favor over actual human beings. We've been not only negligent, but outright absent in public oversight and holding elected officials accountable, and as a result of our impotence, innocent Americans are now going to have to pay the price. Shameless Republican politicians will love seeing draconian-style state laws they've worked to put into place become active. Bounty laws to persecute their political opponents by pitting Americans against Americans, offering bribes to those who want to become vigilantes in the name of their political ideology. The party that pretends to advocate for personal freedom sure has a habit of taking it away at every turn. But that's because they're not the party of personal or any other kind of freedom. They're the party of oppression, the party of dictatorship, the party of exploitation, and the party of manipulation. Republican leaders couldn't care less about life or any other cause outside of their own pocketbooks or political power. Pandering to the fundamentalists is simply part of their electoral map strategy. They must hold the Bible Belt, a group they otherwise would have no hope of securing by criminalizing abortion. Republicans are not caring, giving, compassionate, or any other quality that is remotely Christ-like. In fact, they're quite the opposite. They simply see opportunity to exploit the extreme religious communities by weaponizing and demonizing a political issue to win over their support. It's part of their algorithm to take over American politics in a world where they have no majority support on any of the stances that they take. In thanks, the Republicans will ship more jobs out of middle America, raise working class taxes, double down on the crippling effects of climate change, and eliminate voting rights to keep themselves in absolute power perpetually, all in the name of their personal greed at the expense of the voters. But it doesn't matter because they've taken a stance on a one-issues voter topic, and that's how minority viewpoints come to rule the majority, how corruption and power intersect towards dictatorship, how democracy weakens and decays. But we know how to fix it, and we have to do it now while we still can, while we still have an American system. These midterms find us on an absolute knife's edge. On the one hand, we can hold the House and expand our Senate majority to codify Roe, pass voting rights, end gerrymandering, and secure democracy for future generations. On the other hand, this could be the beginning of the end of America as we know it. It's up to us to stand up and show up, not just for ourselves, but for all the voices of the freedom across our country, and to once more be the beacon of freedom across the globe. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.